Book 1 Section 7. Memories of Thievery. French Nickers Benny. So, we got a call off of Carl Reed and Alan Theobald, which was always a pleasure however you looked at, but even more so when there was a job in it. We knew Reedy and Theo from school and they were a right pair of chances. Generally honest, but from time to time, a job came up they couldn't say no to. Me and Zippy went to meet them at the Brown Cow, leaving Gorang Gray under the watchfly of Tony Matthews. He got suspicious if the four of us disappeared, so we subdivided and worked in pairs. If we made any money off the scam, it was split 4 ways, as it should be. They were good-looking, charming lads, who were well-versed in the sexual art even while most people at school were overly concerned about their Moko levels. Carl was a top mechanic, and, as well as having an exclusive clientele, he also did work with long-distance lorry drivers and occasional loads were misappropriated. Theo went into the army, where he learnt more about thievery than we did in prison. When we get to the bar, Theo is ordering and, like the gent he is, asks us what our poison is. We join him at the bar as Alan wanders into a chorus of hellos and Theo gets him another. Gloria behind the bar is not going to let Theo struggle with 5 pints and tells him to take a seat as she will bring them over. It must have been a bit of a treat for her, having such quality male specimens in that bar at that time of the day, well, if you don't count Zippy. But hey, even he looked good in the cow. Gloria came over with the beers and asked if we'd like some sandwiches to go with them. Very amiable, we agree. Chewing the fat was the order of the day for the first pint. Etiquette must be observed in these situations. You can't simply fire in and ask what the job is. Time must be taken, codes of conduct observed, and above all, your hand must enter your pocket. Remember that Theo got the first round, so it would be dreadful form for him to have to gesture to with his empty glass. So little after the halfway mark on the glass, I'm off to the bar, asking them if they want a little something to go with it. Plus tard, Monday Amy, is Theo's response. Gloria behind the bar is not that bad, I decide. She does take some stick, especially when she comes back from her holes in Magaluf, prompting one too many jokes about her tan and the name of the bar where she works. Still, and I mean this sincerely, and in a non-sexist way, it's good to have a slapper behind a bar, lets you know it's a well-run boozer. Anyway, I digress. As the second pint is coming to an end, I have to give Zippy a kick from under the table to move his stoned ass to the bar. All that time playing golf on the computer, and he knows not of etiquette. Reedy casts a beady eye round to see if the walls have ears, but they don't. Then he tells us of a little consignment that might just be up our boulevard. Turns out that some lad who goes over to France has hit upon boxes of top-notch French lingerie. Good stuff, the best, none of the usual crap you see on the market, or even in Etam, if you really like a bird and decide to treat her. This stuff is like, beyond Mars and some of it's beyond sand. Advantages, as pointed out by Reedy, are, this lad wants rid 'cause his boss thinks he's up to no good, as he is, ergo, price reduction to right faces, namely, ours. But the icing on the cake, which is already replete with marzipan, glacé cherries and chocolate santas, is that selling underwear to horny young lasses is my favorite thing in the world. I feel my balls tense up at the very thought, and wonder how tender they'll be as we flog the last brazier. Reedy and Theo are not into selling the stuff door to door as they are working men, so we agree on 50-50 and shake on it. Gloria comes out with more butties and we scoff them happily as Ellen flies to the bar. It's only just gone 1 and we don't want the liquid to get in the way of work, but it appears that Reedy and Theo have clocked off for the day, so, from a leisure point of view, it's their call. Alan comes back with the scoops as Zippy announces that nature calls, Colombian nature no doubt. The beer flies down and we notice the sarnies are just not cutting the mustard, despite Gloria's over-generous splatterings. 4 pints is generally accepted as the cut-off point. If you try a 5th, then plans can be forgotten, 'cause after 4 the taste is there and the fire is on. Alan tries a tentative, we'd better be getting on with things, but no one is too interested, especially our hosts who fancy a curry for lunch. So off it is, thanking Gloria and giving her 10 bills for the butties. We do not want people thinking we don't do things properly and hit the Luton Himalayas, a quality scoffing ground if ever there was one, and even more so with 2 litres of strong continental in the veins. Zippy is cursing his trip to the labs now as his hunger levels have reached the same low attainment as his charm. Inside it's pop-atoms and the 5th pint while our friends from the mystic lands prepare the bhajees and the samosas. poring over the menu whilst we quaff the world's best crisps with chutney. Monumental decisions are made for the mains. As always happens, by the time the glorious fare reaches the table, the chances of finishing it are cut down to size from the energetic chomping on the poppers. Still, we give the lad a good run for his money and help digestion with a nice brandy. Reedy hands me a bit of paper which informs me to be present in his garage the next morning with a stipulated amount of purple pictures of the Queen's bonds, and the brandy flies down to toasts of the general excellence of all those present. I nonchalantly accept the bill. I'll take Zippy and Alan's share from their cut of the profits and suggest it would be nice to have afternoon liquors. All are agreed, though, pending confirmation from Mrs. Reed. A few tense words on the mobile later, and we are off to one of Luton's premier watering holes. Inside there are cocktails and wee office lassies who have called it a day for the afternoon. Sometimes you have to question people's work ethic. We are at a business meeting, remember. We have made the decision not to sell in Luton, so it'll be off to the buzzard and surrounding environs where our faces remain more of an enigma. I'm getting right fruity downstairs with all this fanny in the house, imagining in the fun we're gonna have selling the gear. It's not long before a group come over and offer us the possibility to buy them a drink. We tell them that we are gay and tight, and they scuttle off to get their own. Now I know why their clothes look so good if they never get their own in. Unpredictably, they return and question our homosexuality. Zippy thinks he is being witty and clever, an anathema to the lad, by claiming that the good-looking ones are always gay. One of them replies that they didn't think that he was gay for that reason. Well done, says I, she deserves a drink. Let's see if her mates can play at the same high level. Zippy goes into a sulk and requires the bathroom for the powder to inform his shallow, self-esteem-ridden persona that he is of true worth. Anyways, cocktails are purchased and a good laugh is had. Alan and Reedy make their excuses when it is becoming obvious that the party does not end in the bar, and return to the marital home. If you avoid temptation, you can't be tempted. One of the girls runs after Reedy, but he is already in a taxi with Alan, either towards home, or one last drink somewhere quieter. Reedy's missus is gonna bollock him anyway, so it's sheep for a lamb time in the Reed household. Once the place get to choker, we're off back to mine. In those days I lived alone, before the encumbrance of Gore, who has just appeared from his own office and had the place ready for estrogen-filled visitors. Gore's already eating the face of one of them who he's impressed with his shite music taste, and Zippy's been flashing his Persians to another, so she feels obligated to return something. I'm with the finest of the lot, of course, and Theo's holding on to two and looking like he's in party mood. Back at the pad, there are equal slammers going down, but I want to maintain the minimal sobriety for this lassie. Zip is racking up on the living room table, and so, as I provide the location, I get first hit. The lass I'm with doesn't look too kindly on this activity, until I tell her the effect it has on sexual prowess. She's actually looking a bit pissed herself now, and I'm wondering whether I can be bothered, as Gore's doing wonders with the goons, really mixing in it, something quite difficult considering he's at my techniques desk and his new friend is below inspiring the choices. She does look a bit dishevelled. Hard to think really, she looked blinding in the bar and now she's here, I just don't feel asked. The problem is exacerbated by the fact that the ching means I will never finish the job, and that affects my motivation. I decide to get her rat-assed so she passes out, then I'll annoy Zippy by nicking his off him later. So, I think she's getting tucked into the slammers, but she's really going for a fat line, that equaler, then another, her moral high ground put to one side for the moment. She heads off to the loo, and comes back with hair slightly wet from a refreshing splash of cool waters on the face and a touch-up on the makeup. Now she's giving me the horn again, and I want her upstairs. I'm just about to phone Collins Dictionary to get them to change the definition of irony when she tells me that she's on fire and doesn't feel like sex now, maybe later. She just wants to groove. Unbelievable. The rest of the night is a blur, but I'm sure we get to bed at a decent time cause I feel fine in the morning. I've always said that getting pissed on a Sunday afternoon is like staying in on a Friday night. Either way you feel alright the next day. I'm alone in bed, and there is no note either, so that means she went home unsatisfied or I passed out. Either way, I didn't care as I would need all my precious seed for this job. I go to stir the ravers and find her, in the spare bed, with Zippy in the other one. Dirty chemist must have spiked them. I tell everyone it is time to ship up and shape out, or something, and put the coffee on. I inform those who want coffee that they will have to muck in with cleaning duties. There are few groans and grunts, but soon the place is looking good enough for the Peruvian lass to come in and do a proper job for £4 an hour. How much do I appreciate value for money? She's looking sheepish, but I let her know that I have forgiven her, even if she has been soiled by Zippy, and effectively rendered unusable. Gore goes his way, and me and Zippy head towards Reedy's garage, where Alan is waiting for us. Reedy comes out from under a Ford Transit covered in grease and nods to the back room. We load up in no time and hit the ring road. Booking into a hotel in the Buzzard, we freshen up and the foresighted one, change. Zippy is wearing his old Adidas first tracksuit and that won't do. I inform him of the need for proper attire and usher him towards the finest the Bee has to offer in coucheries. He returns with chinos and a navy shirt which he manages to make look scruffy. Sometimes, he is even less use than Graham. I implore upon him the need to make a good impression, and he goes to leave the room with his baseball cap in hand. I despair, I really do. Alan has set up some potential clients, and we arrive at a house on an estate ready to sell. This lass has got 4 of her mates round, and as we walk in, the soup in my soup tray is beginning to boil, so to speak. The gear is top-notch and the girls are loving it, throwing their husbands' hard-earned quits at us. Alan gets a call on the mobile and says he can shift some more. He'll see us in the Rose for a pub lunch in an hour. So, what do we do for an hour? I pull out my master line of saying, how will you know if your husbands like them if you haven't tried them on? They agree that this is the case, and we sit back and enjoy the giggling from the kitchen. When they come back, they give us the twirls we are looking for and ask us to adjust straps et al. Soon they are trying some others one, and before long it's a mess of unquestioning, married flesh. They take the entire box to punt on to their girlfriends and we leave drained, but richer. Alan's waiting for us in the Rose, keen to hear the stories of our escapades, but happy that he has saved a nice little number for his wife. He has sold 2 boxes already to a mate on the market who bit his hand off. Steak and kidney pudding with farmhouse peas, carrots and proper chips, washed down with blackcurrant and soda. No booze till we sell the last garment. The girls don't like lads smelling of booze, it reminds them of their husbands. Ditto experience in the afternoon after I got talking to some girls at the bar in the Rose. They were bevied on Gantz in the afternoon and needed little persuasion. I always find the second orgy of the day starts to drag. Zippy can't take any more. His pathetic little sack can produce no more, and he's walking like Clint after he's just got off his horse. So, by 7 we are back in the hotel, enjoying a nice steak and trying to keep our eyes open to wash it down with a pint of Caffrey's. It is a big ask though, and we retire to the room, for once in our lives, shagged out. Nearly 12 hours sleep puts the spring in my step and I heartily enjoy the fine breakfast provided by the well-known hotel chain. There's not that much to sell today. Alan arrives back shortly after 10. He went back home to spend the night with his wife, who tried on her little present, and he says he's gonna give the market another go. Zippy opts to go with him, which leaves me the door to door. Too much action for the Zip maester, no doubt. He'll want to go home and recreate the scenes in his head only with him in control, as if. So, I'm off selling and financially it's going well, but I seem to be on Minging Pig Street as nothing is taking my fancy. It's now nearly 12 and I'm supposed to meet the other 2 at 1 to head back to Luton when a vision appears. Early 20s, long black hair, curves where the curves live and 2 lips offering a kind home to my pecker. She had no qualms about inviting me in and took everything I had left in the box. Then she ordered me upstairs and began her repertoire of tricks. This was heaven. I looked over to the clock radio and saw the hour flash past 1. I'd have to move things on somewhat. Then just as I was getting ready for the grand finale, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. Not the inviting footsteps of a female playmate wanting to join in, rather the noisy, clumping footsteps of a big lad, probably in some way involved with my new friend who was nestled on top of me. He called her name and she froze. I didn't have time to freeze and pushed her off me. All I could see was this big ape of a man hurtling towards me with a strangulation gesture. He was big but not nimble. I managed to roll off to the other side of the bed and get to my feet. As he lunged again, I wriggled under his left arm and got to the stairs, boasting a greater velocity, my momentum carrying me down the stairs and into the street. I saw the van about 50 yards in front and then realized I was stark bollock naked. Knowing I couldn't go back, I carried on, gesturing to Alan and Zippy to start the thing up, with the other hand covering my now flaccid genitalia. I remember my feet causing me great distress as I got to the van, avoiding the aghast cries of pensioners disgusted by the youth of today. I got into the front seat, and Alan was on the road in a flash, the husband's fist just being able to bang the back of the door as we speed into the town. Another close shave, and the best of it, she paid up front. So, I'm sitting there as God brought me to this world, and funny-ass Zippy offers me the only thing they haven't sold, a pair of large ladies' sports drawers. I put them on and we drive through town until we get to a clothes store. I must admit that there was quite a pleasant comfort factor to these undergarments. Alan goes in and gets me some gear and we're off home. £4 each, the better off, after the split with Graham and Gore, and some happy memories for my old age. Oh, there we are. Central London straight on. We should be at Timmy Kinch's in no time, traffic providing.